So you are working on containerization of your application and you've built a great image. But how do you make sure that the image running in production is exactly the one that you built and approved? Now, what if the image was somehow modified or replaced without your knowledge? So basically, how do you make sure that the image hasn't been tampered with since it's built? Right? The point is, software supply chain can be vulnerable. Right? So for that reason, we need to have appropriate measures put in place to ensure the integrity of container image throughout the build and deployment process. So here is where binary authorization helps. So binary authorization is a managed service offered by Google Cloud, which will help you implement software supply chain security measures through the deployment time controls that it offers. Okay, so in this session, we're going to explore how to integrate binary authorization with Cloud Run, a serverless container platform offered by Google Cloud, and ensure that only the verified images are allowed to be deployed. So we'll briefly take a look at what it takes for the integration between binary authorization and Cloud Run and the general flow over there, and then we'll get to the demo and see it in action. Okay, so let's get in. So binary authorization can be integrated with container platforms, GKE and Cloud Run, and that way you can ensure that only the trusted images are deployed onto the target platform based on the policy that you define. And any image that does not conform to the policy, that's going to be denied for the deployment. So based on what does this binary authorization makes these decisions? Let's take a look at that a little bit more. When containers are deployed onto Cloud Run service, then binary authorization requires that the container images consist of the digital signatures, which are referred to as attestations created by the attestors based on the policy that is defined. So here, the policy creator is defining a set of rules through the policy creation. A policy may say deny all the images or allow all the images or allow the images which consist of these digital signatures, these attestations created by attestors here. And the attestors are the trusted entities, for example, your security team who sign the images here. And there can be more than one attestors depending on various steps that are involved in your build pipeline. For example, once the container image is built, it goes through vulnerability scanning and testing to make sure that your image is appropriate for the deployment. So if you take a look at the overall flow, once the image is built, it goes through the next step where the image is scanned and approved. Then attestor creates the attestations. For example, a security team is signing the image saying that it is approved. Then you make a deployment attempt, then binary authorization checks the policy and finds the attestation from the attestor, the required attestor here, and then the deployment is allowed or denied accordingly. Okay, so that's how the flow looks in general for binary authorization. Now let's take a look at this in action. So I'm on the GCP console now. Here is the Cloud Run. I don't have any services at the moment, and this is the binary authorization section. You can see the default policy and the attestors. There are no attestors existing at the moment, and so for the deployment onto Cloud Run, I'll be using these images, simple Hello World images. I have two versions, V1 and V2. Okay, so let's get to Cloud Run and do a sample deployment. So I'll pick Hello World V1. So I am creating a Cloud Run deployment, choosing the Hello World image and the V1. Leave all the default options. IAM authentication not required. And remaining all are the defaults. Now we're going to the security section here, hitting the security tab. Here is where I see verify container deployment with binary authorization. So when I check this, basically this Cloud Run service is integrated with the binary authorization. So this step is crucial. So that is what is ensuring the integration of Cloud Run service with binary authorization. Okay, then when I hit configure policy, this basically takes me to binary authorization section where I can see the existing policy and take actions on that. Okay, so I just check that box to finish the integration, hitting the create. Now, since my default policy is indicating that allow all images, now I should have the deployment without any issues. So we can see here deployment went through without any problems. Now in the second step, what we can do is let's go and edit the policy on binary authorization. Now I can see there are a few options here. Disallow all images and required attestations. So when I pick required attestations, I will need to sign the image. But before we go there, let's quickly try this disallow all images option. And by the way, I can also check this dry run mode so that the rejected images are audit logged. The messages related to the policy violations are audit logged instead of blocking the deployment. Okay, so I picked the disallow all images and saving the policy. And now I'm going to Cloud Run and simply editing the existing deployment there. So here this is the V1 that was picked earlier. That is the same image. I'm simply editing and hitting deploy again. Let's see what happens this time. Now we can see there is an error coming back with a message denied by always deny admission rule. Our deployment has failed because the policy indicates that all images are disallowed, blocks all images from deployment, and that's what we're seeing here. Okay, so now let's go back to the binary authorization again and edit the policy. Now let's choose the third one, which is required attestations, so that only the images which have been verified, which have been signed by the attestor, are allowed for the deployment. So we will test this policy now. So we need to add attestors first. So for that, we need to make sure there are attestors existing. So we don't have one existing now. So we'll create one. We are in the create attestor section. So what it requires is a name for the attestor and a key for signing the image. We can rely on a Cloud KMS key for the key. Let's give it a name. Build approver. And for the key, we'll import it from Cloud KMS. We'll go to KMS and there is an existing key created for binary authorization, just the version 1. I'm picking that and using that with attestor here. Import from Cloud KMS and give the resource ID here. And we can see that that's imported. And just hit create. And this ensured that the attestor is created for signing the images now. And go back to the policy and add the attestor now and give the name build approver and hit add, then save policy. Okay, now let's go back to the Cloud Run deployment again. So earlier with previous policy, we had always deny admission rule, and that was the error message. And now if I go and edit and hit deploy, let's see what it comes back with. This time also it should fail. Error message should look different. So here we can clearly see it indicates that it is denied by the attestor build approver, because the policy that is enforced right now indicates that allow only images that have been approved by the attestor build approver. So this image that we picked, the Hello World V1, is not signed yet by the attestor. So that's the reason we are seeing this error message. So now the next step for us is to sign the image. So we will perform that step. To sign the image, we will use this API. There's a gcloud command, binauth z attestations sign and create. An example command looks like this. So what it requires is the artifact URL, the Hello World V1 container image with the image digest. So that is the required format for the artifact URL. We'll pick the digest from the V1 here, which is, this is how it looks, the image digest of the Hello World V1. So we'll create the gcloud command. All right, so here is the gcloud command for signing the image. So binauth z attestation sign and create, and we provided the artifact URL in the required format. Artifact URL including the image digest and specification of the attestor here, the build approver, and then the project, and then the KMS key details of the attestor. So that's all what is included here. Now hit. Okay, so that went through. An attestation is created. Now in the next step, let's list the existing attestations. And so for listing the attestation, we will use this API. There's a command gcloud beta container binauth z attestations list. An example looks like this. So our gcloud command looks like this, gcloud container binauth z attestations list, and attestor is the build approver and the project. So when I hit enter, here I see the response with the attestation that we have just created. We can clearly see the resource URI here that is indicating the image that has been signed with the digest and rest of the information related to the attestation. So that confirms that the Hello World V1 image is right now signed. So now in the next step, let's go to the Cloud Run and edit and deploy again. So that is the V1 which we just have signed. So I'm just hitting the deploy, and this time it should go through without issues. Okay, that's what we're seeing here. Now that the image has been signed, Binary Authorization has checked for the attestation, and it confirmed the existence of the attestation, and it allowed the image for the deployment. So that's how this policy works. All right, in the next step, let's take a look at how to delete the attestation that we have created on Hello World V1 image, and then we'll go back and then try a redeployment and see that it is failing again. Okay, so for deleting the existing attestation, we're going to use the occurrences API and the delete there. So for deletion of the attestations, there is API support. Here we can take a look at the curl command. It is going to require occurrence ID. So we're going to take that from the occurrences list that we have done earlier. Here, I'm going to copy the occurrence ID from there and then use that for the delete. And now hitting enter. So it came back with 200. Now the attestation should be deleted. Now let's do the list again to make sure that it is deleted. So it came back with 0 items. So the signature that we have created on Hello World V1 image, now that is deleted. That means if we go back to Cloud Run and edit and deploy, then it should come back with an error indicating that the deployment is failed because the image is rejected. And the error message is clearly indicating that it is denied by the attestor because the attestation was removed. Okay, so now there is one other interesting feature that we can take a look at is we can override this and do the break glass and provide justification, which is going to be captured in the cloud audit logs. And this allows us to proceed with the deployment. So justifications, hit break glass, and now this is proceeding towards the deployment. This is basically overriding the policy. And the message that we have put in the justification goes into the audit logs. We could proceed towards the deployment with the break glass feature that the binary authorization offers here. All right, so that concludes our demo. We have clearly seen in the demo how the integration of binary authorization with Cloud Run addresses the deployment time security control that is very critical for strengthening the software supply chain security. That's it for this session. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.